Emma's understanding, this is similar, pretty similar to what we did last year, so there's not going to be any surprises. Also, to anyone who is in the chat window and you'd like to tell us where you're coming from or your favorite comics or anything like that, feel free. We love to know more about you, and we hope to learn lots about you. I was thinking just the other day that just how easy it is these days to like everyone in the globe has a phone just about, and anyone can take a picture, and anyone can even create a story with those pictures, and just about anyone can take a video, right, and share it and post it and even make a story, but like not a lot of people can like sit down and make a 6-page comic. It's a special skill, and it's also like a really deeper communication tool, I think, than the things that we're most used to and that we find most gratifying. I know we're all victims to it. We're all always on our phones and searching for likes and all that stuff. But I think there's deeper ways to communicate, and I think we found that last year in the certificate program. There was so much great give and take, instructor to student, student to student, student to instructor, et cetera, et cetera. And Emma, again, chime in anytime you feel like interrupting me, especially if I go on a rant like that, and don't
I guess you're going to bring it back and welcome everyone and get started.
Yeah, sure. My computer just stopped being charged. That's okay, I'll last. All right. So anyway, thank you for being here. This is we'll try and make this efficient, and we will take as many questions as we can fit in. And I want to say again that we did this last year, but the difference is, we did this webinar last year, very similar, but the difference is that you're here this time, whoever you are, and we would love to answer your questions. We would love to help you out and help you get from wherever you're at to wherever you want to be. So I'll start by saying, let's click into this window here, that we're now enrolling. Yep. This is Olivia, by the way. Is Olivia still in Jacksonville? I think so.
I think she might be, yeah.
Drawing comics and robot comics. So SAW is a real place. This is an older iteration of it. Emma is in the new iteration of it. It has moved at least 4 times. And you can see how charming it is and how much everybody gets to know each other. We share supplies, we share stories. We get sweat on each other's artwork. We've been in a couple really crazy environments. This is us doing figure drawing in an active work shed that was right next to our actual teaching area. Anyway, so SAW is a real space, and it's in Gainesville, Florida, and Emma is in charge of that. If you have questions about the real space, what's happening this year or in the winter or in the spring, ask Emma, and any way that you want to ask her, she'll find you, we'll find her. We've done art shows at SAW in the 10 years we've been around. This is one of our most glorious ones, I think. This was a mixture of comic art, all the illustration and comic art we had collected and done, and some visiting artists from a couple different locations in Africa and France. And we partnered with the University of Florida for this art show, and we've done lots of great work. We also have student art shows. This is Nadia from 2017, I think, maybe 2016. After her student show, and I think there's Kelsey, who just like did so many pages. She was just so dedicated, and she had never done that many pages. She just found her groove, I think, thanks to us, but I think that groove was always in her, and she just needed to find her way to it, and that's what we help do. So we go right into some of the instructors, but again, in the real space. So here is our drawing instructor, Sydney. You can see some of his credentials there, but he's in real space at SAW drawing one of those Games of Thrones characters with a mixture of like pen, brush, and like an X-Acto blade, and I think he was using his fingers, and we like to get dirty there. So and he's really good at drawing all sorts of different types of drawings with different types of materials, and that's one thing we like to do there. There's Justine. She was there from the founding, and she's a real master and genius. And there she is showing off some of her artwork to some of the students. I think Emma's in that shot somewhere, maybe behind some of the others. But and here's one of our newer instructors. This is Ayani Cooper, who's not quite a doctor, but she might be by the time her class starts. And you could read all this, or you could just skim all the way down to the bottom where she says, to put it eloquently, I want to know why folks are horny for monsters. It's very important research. So Ayani is one of our newer instructors who's going to be taking over the reading modern comics portion of the class, and we'll talk about that. Rob Clouse, somebody who we've brought on this year as well. He's a scholar of comics and a critic and knows everything about the comics history. And the thing he's bringing to the table this year is he's going to help us see the hidden history of comics, he calls it, who's been like blocked out of access to distribution, who hasn't been seen, who's trying to be seen, who's allowed to be seen. A lot of these questions and how they relate to society are sort of his forte, and he's real expert in that. So I'm really happy to have Rob here. Jess Rullifson is one of our guides and mentors. She'll be around in 2022. She's been with SAW for a long time as well. Oh, there's Emma. Emma, would you like to give an intro? That's the two pictures of Emma that I have. One holding her.
And they're in the same picture.
Yeah.
I'm Emma. Hi. I'm a alumni of the year-long program and kind of hung around to help Tom out with the different programs we do, both online and in person. So like he said at the beginning of the call, if you have any questions about the in-person program, I can answer those. But I'm also here to support the online stuff, kind of while I'm also making my own comics alongside you. So is that an introduction, Tom?
That works perfect. And that reminds me that all of the instructors and guides and mentors are making comics at the same time as well.
Or doing like comics research, like Ayani is like doing her PhD in comics, right, and comes from like a different background than maybe practice.
Yeah, and also doing a podcast about maybe comics or maybe just media in general, but I saw that she was working on that. And quick shout out to Carlo, who's hiding in the wings. Carlo's also one of our guides and mentors who's been through the program, and maybe we'll bring Carlo in. But also, Emma and Carlo, if we have any questions that are urgent in either the Facebook or in the Zoom, let us know and just bring them up, and that would be fine. Anyway, here I am. You're looking at me. It's big. It's, you know, I've done lots of comics. I'm holding some of the comics I've done. I've been doing this. I've been teaching longer than 20 years. I founded this school about in early 2011, so about 10 years ago. And it's just my passion to help people tell their stories, and it's getting stronger the older I get and the longer I do it. To be honest, I feel like it's our duty to empower each other and to help light each other's stories. I can get into that rant some other time, but I really think it's important that we all sort of like learn to look at who we are, who our neighbors are. Learn to listen to each other and learn to communicate what's inside of us, and learn to find those commonalities, but also learn to differentiate. And so that's who I am. There I am. There's a Q&A question, Emma. Do we want to deal with that, or just get into this?
There's a couple of questions, but one that we should clarify to begin with is that today we're talking about the online program. So where the course, that kind of the pictures that Tom is showing are from when this course existed, like only in person, but from last year we've been offering it online as well. So from wherever you are in America or around the world, you're able to access it. But if you're able to come to Florida, you can access it here too.
Yeah.
What's the next part, Tom?
Well, quick reminder though, if anybody has questions about SAW in general that maybe isn't part of this presentation, we'll take it at the end. We're always friendly that way. Anyway, okay, you're sick of us. You say, fine, what's in it for me? We don't want you to be like that guy, like throwing your hands up, frustrated, not knowing where to turn. Anyway, we want to help you get from that place you are now to a place of more calm. And we feel like there are at least 4 different ways in which we can help you do that. One is to find a community of fellow artists, and you'll find that at SAW. This is another shot of in person, but it feels that way online to me too. And I'll show you some clips of how we interact online. You'll get interactions with instructors and like the people who have designed the curriculum, the people who have been in the trenches, like myself and Justine and Sydney and them and everybody. We'll be interacting in the forum. We'll be on the calls and helping you get to where you want to be and helping you see who you are. And I actually think that's one of the most important things is with every step you take, we can see you a little bit more clearly. We can see the work that's coming out of you, and we can help you see that work too. We've got a tested curriculum that works. Like I said, I've been teaching for 20 years. SAW's been around for 10 years. This is SAW's first student. Her name is Sally. That's her art show from that year. Sally is from New Jersey, and I lived in New York City at the time that I was thinking of starting this school. And I knew her as a teenager when she would come to SVA and join the teen classes. And I was like, she needs to be trained and given like a year or two to really just hone her vision because she is too excellent. And she went to a general arts college, which she did well in. But I opened the school for people like Sally who needed something informal but structured. And so I dragged her to Florida. I said, I'm opening this school and you have to attend. And she did. And she is rocking it now. She's, I forget the publisher she's working for, but I think there's a couple. You can go find her on Instagram and on Twitter. She's constantly drawing. She's constantly publishing. I'm really, really proud of her. And the fourth thing is we have a goal to work towards. So we're gonna be working on 3 different assignments and then a 4th final assignment. That 4th final assignment will collect into an anthology that we'll publish at the end of the year. Emma, you want to hold up that anthology real quick? Is it there? Oh yeah, there's last year's, and can you flip it real fast? Cool. I have all the pages in a PDF, so they'll come up real soon in here too. But so in that goal to work towards those 4 things, the community, the interaction, the tested curriculum, and a goal to work towards will help you become a better creator. I'm certain of it. And that's the cover that Emma was just showing. That's the one we just got back from the printer. So here's some of the classes. We do 3 sessions, actually 4 sessions, but the 4th one is a little more freeform. So we do 3 sessions that are 7 weeks each, and they each have 3 classes. So in the first one, the 3 classes there's always one drawing, one sort of idea creating, and there's one that's like context. And so in the first semester, which is roughly September to mid-October or something, we're going to be doing drawing for comics. This is one of Sydney's drawings. He's just brilliant. Oh my gosh. We're going to be doing storytelling with me, and I'm going to be introducing you to some of the magic of how comics work, and just sort of getting into how it works between the panels and how the panels themselves work and all sorts of great stuff like that. And then, like we were saying, Rob will be leading us through the hidden history of comics. So he's going to be teaching you about, yes, mainstream comics, yes, underground comics, but also queer comics, and also comics for women, comics for kids, and Western and Eastern comics, and all sorts of things, and how they've crisscrossed, and how, especially how distribution and press and even politics to some degree have allowed certain voices to be seen and others not, and that'll be our mission, is to get everybody's voice seen. And then at the end of that first 7 weeks, we have an assignment. We're going to draw a comic where our character goes back in time. Doesn't matter what character, and we'll talk more about this. There'll be plenty of time to talk about the assignments, but every course, every week has a small exercise. Maybe it'll be 10 minutes, maybe it'll be 15 minutes, but then there's one sort of integrating assignment that'll be 2 weeks long, and we'll guide you through that, and everyone will have to do that. Session 2, we're going to be doing depth and details with Justine. That's our drawing course. She is a genius, and this is one of her best courses in creating depth and realism in your drawings, but also how to make details work for you and not clutter your image. And it's just a riveting course. So that's one of the places we'll be going through in mid-October through late November. Ideas and Vision. That's my course. That's about sort of learning to understand your own ideas, learning to follow your own ideas, learning to sort of trust your sort of unique perspective, learning to sort of interact with your own art on the page and your own ideas on the page. Hopefully will help you become more of you. And then Modern Comics Exploration with Ayani is going to be, she's going to be guiding us through 6 graphic novels and then a handful of shorter stories over those 6 weeks, and picking it apart, seeing what works, celebrating certain things, critiquing things, and just sort of like getting into the nitty gritty a little more. Rob's comic class about the hidden history is a broader sort of spectrum of comics, but in Ayani's we'll get deeper into smaller readings. And then we'll do another assignment. We don't have to get too much in the details of it. Sometimes these change anyway, but we integrate all the learning that's been happening in that half semester into one assignment, and then we'll be pulling it together and integrating it. Third session, now we're in 2022 in January, Comic Frontiers is my course, and we'll be creating new kinds of comics, different kinds of ways of thinking about comics. We'll be making comics that can be read backwards and forwards. We'll be mixing up panels to tell 2 different stories, even though they're the same panels. What else do we do in that course? All sorts of fun, crazy things. We'll be doing a comic out of photographs and collage. We'll be doing different types of voice narration. We'll be playing with the parts that we sort of forget to play with. Usually we just tell a story, we learn how to tell it well, but we forget there's so many other factors that can sort of help create your story, help create the experience, and also, you know, make you unique if you want to keep following that way. There's another image from Comic Frontiers. That's actually by Jack Kirby, but whatever. Jess Rellefson's going to be leading us through professional practices. That's how to talk about your work, how to present your work, how to share your work, how to pitch your work, how to get how to create a discipline after school, after, you know, the SAW program, and conventions and industry, and also just artistic practice in general. And then the third one, pretty sure I'm trying to get Vanessa Davis to do this. She's the perfect person for it, but she's a little busy during a pandemic, but I think by January she'll be free up to do that. We're calling it the finishing dance. So it's going to be working in pencil, working in ink, working in paint, but also working digitally. And all of those things. Vanessa also has been an editor, so she knows the kind of work that she would take as an editor. She knows the pitching process. She knows how to talk about whether or not your comics are presentable, whether it's the logistics of, like, is it a large enough file, or is it ready? Does it need what kind of tweaks does it need and stuff like that? She's the perfect person for that. So we're hoping to bring her in January. And then there's another assignment. We'll do one last assignment. We'll just skip past that. We'll tell you more about it when you join us. And then we do 6 weeks. Actually, I honestly can't remember. It was more like 8 or 10 weeks of cohort mentoring. So we break into groups of like 6 or 7 or 8, and everybody gets their own SAW mentor. Every group does, I mean, and you work with that mentor for just 6 weeks. And so you break off from the bigger group, and you just sort of intensely work on this last project. This worked out really well this year. I was so happy with the cohorts that were created, and just how tight knit they got. The work that came out of those little bubbles. You'll have a few weeks after working with your mentor. You'll work with them for 6 weeks. After that, you'll have 3 or 4 weeks, depending, to sort of finish up your project and get it submitted. And that works out really well. And then that's pretty much the end until now. After that, so that's, what are we talking about, late April. After that is like, now let's learn about how to like get our files ready and submit them to the anthology, and let's all get that anthology up and running and stuff. And that's our finished freeform comic that we'll do for the anthology. Am I missing anything, Emma?
I don't think so, but you said you had pages from the anthology to give people a look. I think they weren't able, the way the are set up, they can't see when I click through.
I've got the whole thing, so we can just talk and talk and talk as I just flip through, because yeah, this is a PDF of what we wound up printing. And you'll see there's a gazillion different styles. Some people opted to put in some of their exercises from the earlier work. Some people only did their final assignment. It's so great seeing some of this work though, you guys, because like we saw all of these students improve over the year, over the 9 months. And yeah, it's so great. And some of these projects were real surprises. Like, you know, a lot of times people are working and they're getting better and you see them getting better. And then when they, but there's this point where they just lift off, you know, and we got a lot of that in that final assignment. So again, you're seeing black and white work, you're seeing color work, you're seeing digital work, you're seeing some, I think we saw some actual painted work. Some sketches where people were a little more, a little happier with their sketches. That one that we just passed is actually a sketch for a print that she is going in the summer to turn into a lino print. Again, lots of colored stuff. I think Barry works in markers. This is one of my favorite pieces. Anyway, yeah, keeps going. I'm just gonna keep flipping through it. Photographs, ballpoint pen. We're up for anything so long as it is well thought out, crafted as to the best of your knowledge and done with clarity and with confidence. That's what we're here to help you get to. I think that's the end of that. The sign of the. There we go. The end. Okay, so we will have weekly Zoom calls. Those, you know Zoom by now. I think everybody hates and loves it. There are times when it's just magical because we've all found each other in the last couple of years or whatever. I think the community around SAW in its various formats. We have the Mighty Network community, we have the community in Gainesville, and we have the Zoom community, and it's really strong in all those places. And I just love being on some of those calls. And so on those weekly calls, you'll have either Emma or me leading. And then there will be chances to interact with the instructors at least once per semester, probably twice in most cases. We haven't exactly figured that out. And I don't have a slide for it, but once a month we'll have a guest professional come in and talk, and they talk to the entire SAW community. So the year-long program might be only a couple dozen people, but the broader SAW community is a couple hundred, and we'll bring in a professional once a month to talk to them, and that's pretty good. At the end, there are lots of courses we'll offer you at a steep discount too, that you can integrate as part of your fourth sort of semester when you're trying to work on your own projects and trying to sort of figure out who you are, what you want to create and stuff like that. Justine's Inking and Vision class is one of those. So you want to hear some testimonials? I could go on and on. These are, SAW has been the best decision I've made for my creative career. It's helped me be more confident. Everything I needed at the right place at the right time. I traveled 10,000 miles to study at SAW. I think back on my time at SAW every day, almost every day. The amount I got in my year there is amazing. I really owe this program. I've been plagued by the gap between the work I want to make and the work I wish I make. It's been life-changing. Thank you. I'm super excited. They've been pushing me. I've begun to see the world differently. The layers section blew my mind. Strangest experience of school, but also one of the best experiences of school, meaningful and valuable. I wonder if some of these people are on the call. It's been a delight. Thank you. Thoughtful comments, specific attention to individuals' work. Hey you, I am just loving this program's content. We love our students. I love Amy Luke. She's in our graphic novel program and she's such a great creator. Michael energized me, giving me hope for the future. Look at that. I know exactly what I want to do with the story now. My old story was confusion and fear. My new story, she means her personal story, is optimistic. Thank you for the part you've played in all this. You guys never fail to motivate me and get my brain flowing with ideas. inspirational and practical. I finished the graphic novel intensive, so that's a different program, but I've been talking all things drawing and storytelling with my new friends in the community since then. There's no turning back. So yeah, we want you to join us and we want you to stay because we love the community here, the community of comics creators. It's really vibrant. I owe a lot to this community. Thank you for your help, et cetera, et cetera. I love everything you guys are doing online and in person. I love the sense of support and community this program gives. I think that's the ending. And you know what? For some reason, my computer is glitching. So I had, I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second. And then share again. You'll just see how, there it is. Got questions? That's all it is. Sometimes the tech glitches out a little bit. But that's the presentation. We nailed it in 27 seconds, but I want to thank you all for being here. And what really we're here to do is to help you understand what it is you do. Maybe even today help you understand what it is you yourself would like to do, where you'd like to be. I know one question we will absolutely answer and be asked is how much time is necessary. That gets asked all the time. But we can also take a moment to show you some other things. But right now, maybe Emma or Carlo can guide us through some questions and we can answer them.
Yeah, maybe we can start with that question of time, Tom. Like, I think there's a question in the chat about whether this can fit in with a person's full-time work schedule.
Well, how many people can you name that had full-time jobs last year? We had Tina, we had Monica, we had Beverly, we had...
I would actually say the majority of students had full-time. Yeah. And we kind of recommend a certain amount of hours put into the work each week. But I think, like anything, it's what you put in. You get out what you put in. And so if you're able to do that extra hour, if you're able to do that extra half hour of reading, I think it often goes a long way. But we kind of had like a baseline in like working with our instructors about kind of developing the materials, like making sure that people could like process the materials in a certain amount of time. I don't know if that shifted, Tom, whether like we kind of recommend like an hour for materials each week plus like, you know, another hour to be able to respond.
Yeah, something like that. And I'll be honest, the first 3 weeks are probably the hardest. And that's partially because there's just so much content we want to cover quickly so we can get to the really fun artsy stuff, but also the personality of the particular instructors are a little long-winded. So like Sydney goes on a little long, but luckily we've broken them up into smaller videos where if you want to go a little deeper into perspective or a little deeper into the gesture drawing and the expressions and things like that, you can. The same way Rob has a lot of material and it's important material. We've pared down the history class a great deal. I taught the history class last year and it was like a gazillion hours, and we're going to keep it, we're going to tone that down a lot. But what you were saying, Emma, is like, once we get up and running, and I would say after about the 3rd week, because I think those first 3 weeks will be a tiny bit overwhelming, but not in a bad way. You'll just, you know, just the newness of it and sort of like, where do I click and, you know, how do I listen to everybody? But you get used to it in a week or two. But in general, we try to make it so that like, if you have 2 hours a week, you could probably do it. But if you give it 10 hours a week, you'd probably be much happier. And if you throw yourself all the way in, you'll come out great. But we're there to help you. And we know that there are a lot of busy people out there, and we know there are a lot of circumstances that are difficult. The only things mandatory are the 4 assignments. So every class is probably going to be, for instance, in the drawing class, there's going to be some exercises, some like, all right, do these exercises. They'll take you 10 minutes. If you want to do them for an hour, you can, but they're not even mandatory. They're just good for you. There are going to be some conversation starters to have in the group. And that's as much time as you wish to participate in the group. But mostly we just want you learning. And then when that 6-week bell comes and you've got 2 weeks to do that assignment and sort of integrate all those exercises, the more you've done, probably the little more easier that assignment will come out. But if not, we're there for you, and we will help you understand what you've missed maybe, or, understand what you couldn't understand then. Even acknowledge, we know you skipped that part, it's okay, but here's how to learn it quickly, because we want you to get that assignment done. And the reason these assignments are structured this way is because building on these assignments will build your practice and build your vision. So I hope that's helpful.
No, there was also like another question about whether each assignment like builds into the final assignment. I think you kind of answer it there, in that like they're intended as exercises for you to practice a lot of the skills and ideas that we're talking about in the 6-week block. But that final assignment is its own thing. It's like, it's meant to be the culmination of that learning, but not necessarily like a sequential, addition to those 3 assignments that have come before.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is the next question, Tom, which I think would be great to answer, is how does this program differ from the 6-month graphic novel course? And I think by going through the courses, maybe you've answered the question, but if like in a sentence, you could say, this is the main difference, this is what you would get out of it, what would you say?
I'll answer it in 2 sentences, but the first one is more just structural. We sort of see the graphic novel program as happening after their certificate program. So once and then here's the second sentence. So the certificate program is about gathering the tools and the skills and the confidence and the practice to make your stories. And then the graphic novel program is like, okay, I want to devote 6 months or a lot more to one story. And I want the community of support. I want the wisdom of people who've done it. Those 2 things, essentially. So there's not as much tool building. There's not as much skill building in the graphic novel program there, but there is a lot of, honestly, the hardest thing in the graphic novel program is managing our expectations, our feelings, our negotiating with our own energy level. That's different than in the certificate program, where we're literally trying to teach you to draw, write, think, create, all those things. That was a lot more than 2 sentences. I'm sorry. I always do that.
No, I think like you said it, in that it's about accumulating skills and getting you to a place where you can work independently and like work on your own and have an art practice. I think one of the questions that's kind of recurring here is about kind of the live component of the course, and whether like the materials are available for people to work on at their own pace, and when the Zoom calls would be.
Right. The materials they're for you. They're released once a week, but once they're released, they're for you at any pace you need.
Forever as well.
They're available. Access to them as long as you need. So long as our lights are on, they're available to you. Other places say they're available forever. I'm not sure I believe in forever, but as long as we've got the lights on, they're available to you, and you can download them and bury them in the dirt or something. And the other question, the live calls will probably be alternating Mondays, 2:00 and 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. We found that's the best rhythm that allows people on other side of the planet to sort of come in on some of them. But also some of the people on the West Coast of America. That's probably what we'll do. And those will be a little bit hard to predict early on. Like Justine may come in for a 2:00 call because she can't come in on an 8:00 call. So if you really want to talk to Justine, you got to be there for the 2:00. But she'll be in the group. Everybody will be in the Mighty Network. But it's just like, if you want to ask her a question live and in person, you have to be on that particular call. Sydney's usually available. He's got a young child. I don't know when his availability will be, but he'll definitely be on 1 or 2 calls over there.
But those, especially, it's important to say those calls are, they're not mandatory. They're kind of like a added bonus. Like obviously working online, we're kind of all in isolation. This is a way to come together and kind of check in.
Right.
And they will be recorded, especially those pro calls and the conversations that are like subject matter specific. They'll be available as recordings after the live session. So if you're unable to make it, you still have access to that as like a resource.
Yeah, those can be really useful and fun too. If you get one of the instructors off on a tear, like, and they'll say, okay, I'm going to demonstrate right in front of you. They'll just set up something, but it's in response to a question. It's like, hey, I really want to understand. This came up with Justine last year with people wanting to understand a little bit more about creating depth, and particularly how Walt Kelly created depth. And so she got out some, I can't remember if she did it on the screen or what, but anyway, she did it really live in front of everybody, and then we sort of tacked that up in the materials for anyone who missed it. I see we have some graphic novel people in the chat. Laura and Sign both. Hi. All right. I'm not reading it in detail, but I see their names.
Well, Laura was asking, would it be absolutely nuts to do to allow the 6-month graphic novel program and the year-long to overlap? Like, what would you say?
I feel like somebody did it last year. Who did it? Did Barry do it last year? Or
Barry definitely did it. I think there are a few people. I think Laura, it is totally doable, but not entirely necessary. I think that if you're looking to hone in on specific skills, it's probably worthwhile doing the certificate program and being like, I'll come back for the graphic novel one next year, and we can kind of figure out a way to roll that over. But you also have a whole lot of clarity about your project, so I think you have the means to keep going in the 6-month graphic novel program with the support of the community there. It just depends what you're looking for.
That's perfect. I agree. And Laura, if you want to reach out, or anybody can reach out to us personally if there's just a little bit more of an answer you'd like.
Right. And I think Jill kind of has a similar question about like the graphic memoir program, whether one should lead into the other. I think the graphic memoir group is a little bit different in that it is like kind of such a niche area that people are focusing on. And Beth, who kind of leads people through that program alongside Tom, has it's more of a community built around that. Whereas the year-long is like very material or resource focused. Like we're trying to get to an endpoint within each 6-week block. So I think they could be done simultaneously. Is that fair to say, Tom?
Yeah, the memoir program it's probably unfair to call it a program. It's more of just an ongoing working group.
Right.
And some people have goals in mind. Like I know I'm working on this like 200-page story. I know I know the themes, I'm writing it and drawing it, and I'm just looking for that support, and I get that in the graphic memoir group. But other people are more sort of like in the process of like honestly crafting their identity on the page, understanding who they are as people using comics as a way to interrogate that. And some of them are far along in turning it into a larger project. Some of them only do short projects. Beth has them doing weekly exercises / meditations, depending upon, discussions and exercises. It's honestly, in some ways, it's less project driven than either of these other two programs. The graphic novel program is definitely like, let's get you to push through that thing that you've been thinking about for forever. And we've had people in the graphic memoir program say, okay, this is the 6 months that I'm going to take this memoir I've been working on slowly in the graphic memoir group and really push through it. And we have some people in the graphic memoir or in the graphic novel group doing that right now. Jeannie, especially, McCody. I see there's a Q&A and chat window, so I'm not. I'm
trying to be in the Q&A, and then I'm scrolling through the chat. So if we miss you in the chat, I'm trying to go in order. So the next, and I just, in response to that question from Jill in terms of like the memoir group, the certificate program is absolutely going to help you and give you skills to work on a graphic memoir. That's like really important to know. There's a question about, in Comics 101, there's a materials page and it mentions to obtain a Kolinsky or a Winsor Newton #2 brush. Do we need it? I know that we have it in previous years.
Yeah, the inking class this year is optional, so you wouldn't need it until if you opted to take the inking class. You wouldn't need it till April. I'll talk with Vanessa about what she is going to talk about in January as far as her supply list. I'll try and get that early rather than later. She will probably have you do a tiny bit of watercolor just to try it. It's like, okay, this week I want you to try watercolor for 20 minutes and that's it. And then if you like it, then I'll teach you more. And as far as inking, she may have you just be whatever is around is okay. She's okay with you using microns, etc. But if you want to go really deep into inking, then that Kolinsky Sable is really good. But you wouldn't need that until March or April if you're interested in the inking course. That's optional this year. So I hope that helps. I see a lot of other questions. So Emily, I'm just gonna clarify some of your answers in the Q&A.
Please.
That's okay. If we do the online option, do we interact with the in-person classmates as well? COVID's making that complicated, but I'll let Emma answer that, but I presume so. We'll figure that out. It's more like they'll probably be in the group, I assume, right? In the online group.
Right. So for the in-person students, they'll have access to the online resources, but their focus will be in the classroom here. I'm imagining like viewing parties for the professional call, so we can all get together and be on that together. But that is entirely up to the students. That's not going to be expected of them, because in some ways it'll double their workload because they'll have things that they're looking to do here in person.
And the visiting artists who you're bringing to Gainesville, the visiting instructors, they'll be at least on one call per three different instructors for the year, I think, right? Andy.
Absolutely, yeah. And guest artists for like week-longs and stuff, that you'll have opportunities to engage with them in some way.
Great. Okay, so you answered the question about asynchronous content. Okay. All right, I'm going to skip off the Q&A and go to the chat window. Are we missing anything in the chat window, y'all?
Yeah, there's a bunch here, Tom.
Oh.
Is this course okay for beginners?
I think so. I always say that it's really just up to you whether or not you want to learn, if you've got the drive to stay at it. I've always been a fan of stick figure comics. You know, I think there's a way to do stick figure comics well and a way to do them. You know, there's a way to bring clarity and confidence to the stick figures if that's what you're doing. But also, we're going to teach you so much about how to compose a picture that I don't think you'll feel. Well, I was going to say I don't think you'll feel like a beginner forever, but the truth is there's always more to learn, and you'll always feel like a beginner. I do anyway, and I know Emma feels the same way. Right? Yeah. Okay. I don't want to talk to you, but I talked for you. Yeah, I mean, it really depends. But if you are smart enough to know like that there are skills you need and you want to learn them, but you're also self-aware enough to know there are stories you want to tell and you're not able to tell them yet, then you're probably in the right place. We can help you clarify and refine the skills you have at the moment and make them better to serve you. You know, to serve your vision and your identity and your story. So I think so, yeah.
I know I answered in the Q&A about whether the instructors are in the SOAR network, but I don't know if you want to answer that as well, Tom. I did already saying that there would be a Zoom call with them once a like 6-week block, and they'd also be in the Mighty network, right?
Yeah, absolutely. During so I'm pasting the main. I'll get to that in a minute. So, oops, it didn't work. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so for the 6 weeks that Sydney is teaching, for instance, he'll be in the network and then he'll drop out a little. You know, you still can tag them even if it's a few weeks later. You know, we had a couple students who were always lagging behind, but in a good way, because the material was so rich. They were like, you know, I'm still on material from last semester. Can I tag Sydney or Justine and ask them a question? Of course you can, and they'll probably answer. But but we ask that they be very active in the semester that they're teaching. So myself and Sydney and Rob in that first session, and then Justine and Ayani and myself in the second session, and then hopefully Vanessa and Jess and myself in that third session. Emma will always be there as well, and Carla will sometimes be there, and we're hoping also maybe we'll get Jess involved a little bit more, though she's in grad school, stuff like that.
Tom, could you answer next just a little bit about the payment for the course? So there's a couple of questions about payment. Are you paying per class, or is there a payment plan? And there's also a little bit of a question about, or there is a question about sliding scale. So you want to describe why we offer things at sliding scale?
Yeah, well, first off, yeah, we have a bunch of different payment options. I posted the URL at 2:45 p.m. So it's there, it's learn.comics, so you can see that URL in the chat window. And that, if you scroll about halfway down, you'll see the payment plans. You can pay one lump sum for $19.95. There's a couple 9-month payment plans, one at $229, one at $259, one at $299, et cetera, et cetera. And they're all the same. They just more like ability to pay. We've always, because we're a nonprofit, we've always tried to offer things at sliding scale. We've tried to offer things for people with less resources than with more resources. We really appreciate it. Everyone benefits when you can pay what you can afford. But those are the options currently available. Sometimes if there are circumstances that keep you from paying what's on the screen, you can reach out to me or Emma. Emma usually handles that a little more than I do, and we can see if there's something we can do. I hope that helps. So that URL has that, and somewhere on there it says, yes, it's all the same course, because I know there's like 9 different options. And also in our particular software, it's a little tricky to organize it in a hierarchical way that makes sense. So it's a little bit sloppy, but that's just because our software didn't allow us to do it that way.
There is a question about payment, about whether it's per class. So it's not per class, it's actually for their certificate as a whole. You can't take, like Tom said, you can't take individual classes. It's the nine classes plus the mentoring period that add up to the certificate.
Right. And we're looking at maybe breaking those up someday and offering maybe a slower way to work through all those 9 courses, or but at the moment, that's how we're doing it.
We've also had people who've like signed up and said, I'm not able to go through this now. I don't need to receive the certificate, but I want to keep accessing the materials. Right, Tom?
I forget. Did we? People drop off midway and say, can I pick up next year? Because life circumstances. In fact, we have to contact them and say, join us in January. So we've had a couple of people do that. One, the PhD candidate in London, whose name I'm suddenly forgetting, and then there was someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, thanks. So
there's another question about whether the 6-month graphic novel program is still enrolling. I don't think so. We're about a third of the way in, so that will come around again in June next year. We'll be offering it then.
Yeah, we're closer to halfway through.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost September.
I'm pretty comfortable with that being June to December every year, or June to November. I don't think we'll offer it in the beginning part of the year, but save up that energy and keep in contact, and we'd love to have you in June. We had people join midway, and we can figure out a payment option, but you just might, if you really feel it'll help you jumping into the program midway, and just that the community and the little bit of mentorship in the graphic novel program, if you feel that even at this late date it'll help you, then we'll let you in. Sorry, questions.
No, that's great. I'm losing track of the questions a little bit, so I apologize to anyone who hasn't doesn't feel like we've answered their question. But there is one about how keeps jumping up. Why does it do that? Where if they have existing skills, say in animation, how much new content is there in this program? Like, or would it be filled with redundancies for people?
Well, I think comics and animation are a lot different. Maybe you'll skip through the first 3 sessions, then maybe you'll draw rings around everybody as far as gesture drawings go. But I think drawing in the panel and drawing in sequence is far different than drawing animation. I think the only redundancies, honestly, will be in the first few weeks about expressions and gestures. And maybe to some degree, depending upon how much you got involved with background design in your animation, for instance, then maybe a little bit in that second semester might be redundant in Justine's class, but I doubt it. I mean, I've taken that class of Justine's myself 3 times and I always learn new things, although I was never natural of an artist. So I've needed it that many times, but honestly, we had Juan was an animator, right? Or no, not Juan. No, Juan was a graphic designer and graphic artist.
I've always read his work as if he was in animation.
Maybe he was too, but no. I
know Karen is. She wasn't in the year long. We have a few people.
Yeah, and Tor as well has done. But also, I'm thinking of the fellow. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. It's not that I forget my students. It's just that I'm in my like outward brain right now, and it's not collecting information at the same time. The fellow who did this story about Spider Robinson as the last story, the time travel. Anyway, he was an animator for sure.
You'll remember later. You'll remember in 2 hours.
He was really happy, and again, like in some ways, he could draw rings around everybody. But he was also really, really grateful for the ways in which this program helped him focus on comics, which was something he had many.
Right, and flexing different muscles, right? Like it is. Yeah. How do people receive feedback specifically on inking and technique?
Well, if we're going to talk about inking and technique in the inking class, which is an optional class and which is Justine's class, we can arrange. It's usually like it's in the Mighty Network, and it's like here's some things to look at. If I see that somebody was asking, like, can I ink on camera and have somebody comment on it? Yeah. Justine's often up for anything. It's possible if we get her in the right mood, she'll be like, okay, let's do it. I'll make sure that when we do her inking class, that she will be that we'll do at least one Zoom call. And she'd be fine with that. She certainly, but warning, she'll tell you you're holding the brush wrong. And because she told me that, and she tells everyone that. And that's up for you. That the level of physicality and inking that she actually is excellent at teaching, it's hard to teach remotely, to be honest. She can tell you how to think with line, and she can tell you how best to get those lines as best she can. But if you're drawing with her in the room, you'll see her moving her hand and her whole arm like that. You'll see the way she flicks her wrist to get certain kinds of marks, and it is hard to duplicate that. But we've never really had students do live demos and say, can you critique this? But that's a good idea, actually.
There's a question about whether resources like the graphic novels, whether they're open source or whether they're an added cost, which I can answer, which is that we try and supply all our reading materials for free. There will be recommendations for books that are outside of our reading list, but anything that's required within the program will be available within the course, like materials.
Yeah, we, right.
There's another question about the size that assignments are supposed to be done at. And I think that varies and is often, although we make recommendations, it's always a choice for the students. So that would really be, you'd realize that once you were in the program.
Yeah, I agree that sort of thing can vary from student to student, and actually having the students answer that for each other really helps sometimes. Like, oh, I didn't know you could draw, 1 inch larger than I'm drawing or 1 inch smaller. It's true that for the final anthology, we will probably have you work at something that scales down to roughly 6 inches by 9 inches or roughly 2:3 ratio, but we'll show you how to do that. But everybody sort of finds their own sort of size. And you know, the industry standard, the quote industry, which I don't really believe in that much, used to be 10:15, drawing 10:15 and then reprinting them as what's the standard comic size. We just want to see something alive on the page, to be honest. You know, make it alive and make it readable for us in whatever way you're going to present it to us. Obviously, everything's going to be presented on screen with the first couple semesters. Honestly, the third semester, we sort of throw a wrench in things and we have you make a mini comic that's maybe that big. And the assignment is to make a small movie of you holding it and flipping through it so that we can see it. But short answer is well, Emma said it, there's lots of personal variation.
Tom, can you see the question in the chat that's from Jason Cole? It's kind of like a series of questions that maybe it would be better for you to read and kind of respond as you're
high up. I'm up above Leonie, Emily's sign. Is it way high up above Laura? Wait.
It's actually it's one of the most recent questions. So it starts as, so what do people do with the certificate?
What is the benefit to the certificate for young artists? Can it help them get into a university program? Do people with certificates publish comics? Do they work in the industry? What are graduates doing now? These are great questions. What is the benefit to a certificate? The benefit of a certificate in this kind of system is you have the reputation of the school behind you. You can say, I made it through the SAW program, and here's the proof of that. There are going to be places where it's going to be like, that doesn't matter, show me your work, but hopefully you'll be able to show them your work too, right? We're going to give you that certificate because you've done the work and because you've got something to show. In an arts industry, more often than not, what you need to show people is your past work. And you need to prove to them that you can show up again and again with new work, the work that they're hiring you to do or the work that they're paying you to do. When you say what are graduates of SAW doing now, we do have a page, I think it's alumni.sawcomics.org. And Jason, you can reach out to us or just go to our website and look for alumni, somewhere it's in there, but and it's also in the online certificate program, which I'll paste in here again. You can definitely see 3 or 4. Bjorn Miner, for instance, was in Best American Comics. Sally, who we showed early on, has been doing comics. I'll even pull her Instagram up.
Miranda has a book coming out through Scholastic.
She has 3 books coming out. Yeah. She's like super stressed out. She has three books she has to deliver in a year and a half or something like that, and is doing animation in LA.
But some of our more recent graduates are continuing their studies through the Center for the California College of the Arts through their MFA program.
Right. Harley's portfolio was work she did at SAW to get into
right. And Tiff was also a graduate from that year. She's now started working in children's book publishing, and she's like helping that publisher kind of branch into comics based on her experience and knowledge kind of built here.
Right. Does that help? Jason, feel free to chime in and say that's not enough of an answer, or it is, but thank you, Jill. We hope to see you. Feel free to reach out again. So are we getting
we're almost at the end of our questions here. I'm still trying to answer some in the Q&A, but maybe you can answer this on live. It's who are some of the artists that we've had in the past?
Oh, the previous artists? Oh my gosh.
Maybe just from this year, from the online certificate this year. Start from
you're gonna have to
Carol Tyler.
Carol Tyler, we had Leslie Stein, we had Robin Chapman, who's an editor for Second, come in, and she'll come in again in November. Sam Alden came in, that was for the graphic novel program, but it was just one of the few that didn't cross over both. That is somewhere on record on our website. Carol Tyler was a great one. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out.
Yeah, we had Leela speak, you spoke, Tom.
Right. And anyone who signs up early enough for instance, we have Sophie Yano coming in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in the program already, then you can come and join and see Sophie speak. Let's make sure we get on that, Emma, because that's just a couple days before we launch, to be honest. So we'll be happy to welcome you to that call. And those are great because you can ask questions. And most of those are recorded, but not all of them. Like we had Catherine Woodman Maynard, who did the Great Gatsby novel, and she did a great call. And I can't tell you how many emails I've gotten where it's been like, I'm so inspired by that call, or I had like my worldview changed by that call because she put so much planning and pre-planning into it, and she's also suffered so much disappointment and victory and triumph at the same time. And but we didn't record that call because she didn't want to record it. She was like, please don't record it. So that was one of those you had to be there for, but it changed a lot of people. Who else have we had? I mean, if I go to the pro, Matt Madden gave a pro call. I gave one. I don't do that often. This one last year. Let me see if I can find our pro calls.
We have had some past students join us as well and kind of describe where they're at and their experience.
Like Miranda, who's definitely got a lot to say. Oh yeah, Brendan Burford, Kim Kranz. Now I'm looking at some of them. Yeah, again, Carol Tyler. If you want to reach out for us and look, we'll give you that whole comprehensive list. And also we can tell you who's coming up, like Andy, Casey Nowak, I think November or October. We have Melanie Gilman in January, February. Andy Sanataga, am I pronouncing that right? In September. Sanataga. And we've sort of negotiated a few in there as well.
I think people are kind of starting to drop off now. This kind of last question about software or app requirements, which I'm happy to answer, Tom, being that there are no software or app requirements. I think all of our students find that they have things that are useful to them, but at the end of the day, we're hoping that you can do any part of the program with access to the internet through a computer and, a piece of paper and a pen. Although like kind of that question about what size and what paper are assignments intended to be done at, comics can be made however you're making them. And we do really encourage that, like, and using the tools around you to make things happen. So while there are a lot of recommendations and conversations around software and apps, we're not expecting anyone to use any or to invest in any, because we know that can be a barrier to entry.
Yeah, that's well put. I'm putting some contact info. So we'd love to see you in the program. The more I do things like this, the more I love it. I just think just this personal connection that we make with our artwork and with other people really matters. And being a facilitator of the kind of communication that happens both in this art form but also among peers is really just very meaningful to me. And I'm just really, really honored that you're even here for this webinar, but I'll be especially honored if you join us. There are Emma's email is in the chat, so is mine. Did we get any questions on Facebook? Was I even plugged in correctly? Anyway.
I think Carla was adding them. You're okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see any, but okay. Is that? Oh, okay. And so did that get at? Okay. So have we answered the question?
We've been answering those, yeah.
Is Paige, Carlo?
I think so.
Oh. How many classes are required to receive one certificate? You have to go through all 10, but especially the 4 assignments. Oh yeah, I see 9 classes. Okay, so we're not missing any? You sure?
I hope not. If we are, please feel free to email us or contact us. We're not always responsive on Instagram and Facebook, but we definitely respond to emails.
Trying to get better at Instagram. Facebook, I think, is a lost cause. We have an Autobot that says, please email us. Thank you, everybody. Sign says, how many students are in the program at once? Last year, we had roughly 50. I think it's going to be a hair smaller this year, but it's pretty manageable.
And we break into smaller groups at different times as well.
Thank you, Leonie. Thank you, Giselle. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Sarah. These people have already hopped off anyway. Okay, Emma. So wait, I have one more in the Q&A here. Emma, thanks. Got it. Okay, they're leaving. You answered everything in the Q&A. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. And Emma, I hope to see you in person soon. Sorry, we're supposed to be there today.
No, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. And I know it's not absolutely safe to travel and gather together in person, but we're hoping that we're bringing all the resources we can to you, and hopefully we'll see you in person very soon.
And that said, yeah, let's it's safest. Let's definitely have some week-long workshops down there, and I'll be there for them. And
we tentatively have one scheduled for October 18 to 22nd. Tentatively, it'll be a limited size. It'll be masked and socially distanced, but
okay, that's awesome. Okay, well, stay safe, everybody. I see Laura just said the same thing. Jinx. Emma, thanks, and we'll be in touch. Carla, thanks for facilitating the Facebook. And thanks for everybody, and definitely keep making comics and show them off. If you haven't joined us, you know what? I should have typed this in a long time ago. If you haven't joined us in the Mighty Network, which is free anyway, I'm going to type it in real fast. You can come in and join our community at any time, members.sellcomics.org. And lots of people talking comics, lots of people sharing. And we just want to bring you to that place where you're in better shape than you were when you came in. All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Goodbye. Hooray.
Have a great day.